Rev up your engines!
Well, you want to talk about lack of quality of Ford? Listen to this one. Don Kingston from Rhode Island says, Scotty, I have two friends that live in the same town as me in North Kingston. The husband works for a medical supply company and he's provided by his employer a 2023 Ford Explorer. It was stuck in their driveway 3 to 4 times. He drives all over the place and works for a vascular company. His wife's car was blocked, so all those times the tow truck had to haul it out to the dealer. Well, he was so mad, and the employer said, let's give it another chance. Well, they gave it 4 more chances. Now the employer gave him a Toyota Highlander. 4 months later, no problems. It runs and moves as it should. The Highlander's been a sweetheart, and it's always going down the road, unlike the Ford. The employer came a 2023 Explorer, and the thing's just stuck in park. After 4 times, they're like, now, Ford Motor Company has been saying, oh, we're going to make our quality better. Their president keeps saying, they're not. This is a 2023 Explorer. Brand new, right? Their quality's garbage. They've just lost it, and then they do the talk. We'll make them better in the future. We will. No. What are you doing? You're not doing it right. Forget making electric vehicles. You can't even make your gasoline vehicles right. They really are... making garbage these days. It's unbelievable. Back in the day, I had a 1970 Ford Maverick. I always started, got me all over the place, right? Not these days, though. Their quality is just... Boy, yeah, Bully House says, good morning, Scotty. Other than frame rust, what else should I look for when buying a first-generation Toyota Sequoia? Look for an oil well. Those things are gas hogs. They eat gasoline like no tomorrow. They're well made. Everything, of course, eventually wears out. And if you're looking at a first-generation one, it's probably going to have a lot of miles on it. What you want to do is road test it good. See how the transmission shifts, especially when the transmission's going uphill on a load. When you're really giving it gas going up a tall hill. If there's any tall hills or mountains around, do that. Make sure the trannies, because the trannies going out, don't buy it. Too much hassle. And regardless of what anybody tells you about it, you find a guy like me, put on his fancy scan tool, spend an hour analyzing, he'll tell you the truth. He might say, oh, this is in immaculate shape. Look, the cams hardly have any wear from the data. But if he says, well, you know, the cams are kind of worn, this is worn, then you wouldn't buy it. Jeremy Christian says, I got 2012 Acadia, 155,000 miles. Oil's in the throttle body. Could a clogged PCV cause this? Well, it could, and of course, it's so cheap to put a PCV valve in. If it's clogged up, it builds up pressure. Oil can flow anywhere, right? Do that, because if not, it generally means your engine's worn out. And it is a GM product. It's got 155,000 miles. Most of those will end up burning quite a bit of oil at that time, and if that's the case, but it runs okay, I'd live with it. Just keep adding oil as it went out. You know, they just had a recent class action suit for GM for oil burning. You know, if that's the case, and it probably is, you just keep adding the oil and live with it, because you rebuild one of those with that mileage, it's going to cost you more than a vehicle's worth. Nathan Barton says, I got a Jeep Patriot 2015. Car rumbles at a stop and drive and won't shift until I shut the car off and start it up. I'm selling it to Carvana. What do you think? He thinks you're making a smart move. You made a dumb move. You bought the Patriot, which are kind of junky, and now the transmission's going out. Get rid of it. And of course, you say sometimes it won't shift. Find out, is it mainly when it's cold or warm? And then take it to Carvana when it's cold or warm, or have them come, have it warmed up already, and let them buy it, let them deal with it. I've seen them buy some real junky cars from people I knew who had crappers, and they paid them good money. I don't know if they fix them or they ship them to South America or something. A lot of these companies do ship all over the world. I had a customer years ago, it wasn't Carvana, but it was CarMax, and had a Mercedes. I wouldn't have given them $500 for that pile of crap. They got 15 grand. And I said, did you ask them what they're going to do with it? They said, oh yeah, it's going on the ship channel in Houston. We're going to ship it down to South America, and they'll sell it down there where cars go for tons more money, and they'll fix it up. So you never know what they're going to do with the thing. Georgie says, how long can you keep a coolant flush solution in the system without damaging anything? Very good question. Now here's the thing. Legally, they have changed the laws for coolant flushing chemical. We used to be able to get mechanics really good acidic solution that really cleaned. But, of course, that pollutes all the water in the car. And when you drain it out, it goes down the drain. It pollutes the lakes and water, aquifers, right? So most of the flushes you buy today don't do diddly. They're not that strong. They don't do that good of a job flushing, cleaning anything. I've seen that. Unfortunately, they just don't. I wouldn't leave any kind of heavy-duty cleaner in too long, because it can eat the head gasket, eat the heater core, it can do all kinds of damage. The main thing you want to do is keep the coolant clean. It's so simple. Modern coolant isn't like when I was young. When I was young, you had to change the crap every 3 years. It'd go bad and rust everything, right? Toyota coolant, 7 year, 150,000 miles. You don't have to change it all that often, so just do it every 7 years, 150,000 if you got a Toyota. If you got one that goes 100,000 miles, or, 8 years, 7 years, 6 years, whatever it says, change it then. It's not that hard to do. I have videos showing you how to do it. Because once it needs flushing, you can't really flush a lot of the stuff out anymore because you can't buy the chemicals to do it right. And if you had them custom made, you wouldn't want to leave them in long because they'll probably destroy. I've seen people put heavy duty flushes in, eat up the head gaskets, eat up the water pump seals, then the water pump leaks. Not something you really want to do. House Cinderella says, I got an '09 Nissan Xterra, 219,000 miles. It loses power at 35 miles an hour. First thing you want to do is try different gears. I'm assuming it's an automatic transmission. Shift it manually into different gear. If you shift it to different gears and it will go faster, it's the transmission that normally driving is causing a problem. Like if you leave it in drive and it does it then, but if you put it manually in 1, 2nd, 3rd gear and it doesn't, it means the automatic transmission is starting to go out. But more commonly, you either have a clogged fuel filter, your fuel pump isn't putting enough pressure out, or your catalytic converter is clogged up. All of those can be pressure tested. You can see if the fuel filter is clogged, pressure test it. If it is, replace it. Then, if it goes away, great. If not, then pressure test the fuel pump. You got to do the filter first, because let's say the filter's clogged. You get low pressure. Oh, the pump isn't working. There's not enough pressure. It could just be the filter. So the filter first, then the pump. And if not that, the catalytic converter can be pressure tested. You take out an oxygen sensor, put a little gauge in, and if it's got a ton of back pressure, it should have maybe 1 PSI or something. If it's got 8, 10 PSI, it's all clogged up, and you need a new catalytic converter. That'll do it too. Lancaster says, if none of the fuses in your car are causing a parasitic drain, but you still have a draw. Oh, it happens all the time. Realize everything in the vehicle is not fused. Then you got to start checking the non-fused items, right? First, you got to check the starter. Because the starter isn't fused. If it was, it would pop the fuse all the time. It uses so much energy to crank the engine, you can't put a fuse on a stupid thing, right? Check the starter. Check the alternator. That can do it. There's all kinds of things that can drain, and you say it's parasitic, so when you have the car turned off, it's still draining. Check stuff like brake lights. A lot of cars, the brake lights will work even if the car isn't started. And so if it's a problem, the brake switch or the brake light system, that'll drain. You got to start unplugging wiring harnesses now. You just go out through and start unplugging wiring harnesses pieces. And when the draw goes away, whatever those wires go to, follow it through. There is a problem there somewhere. A lot of times you'll find it with the fuses, but if you don't. Also realize most cars have numerous fuse boxes all over, everywhere. Don't think you found one fuse box that was it. You got to check them all. And some cars, they have a special fuse for the radio. You got to take the radio out of the car to get inside to find the fuse. So it's not always as easy as you think. Dylan C says, how can I check to see my alternator's bad? I got an '01 Pathfinder. Can I remove the negative terminal to running to see if that does it? But I don't want to damage anything. All right, no, don't do that. Now, when I was a kid, yeah, you could do that with a 1964 because they just had generators on them. They had no computers on them. And if you disconnected the negative battery terminal, then the car would be running on the generator. If it stopped running, it means the generator's not charging. If it kept running, it meant it was charging. Do not try that on any modern car because it will destroy the computers of your car running it without the battery connected. Never, ever, ever do that. Now, you can go to any auto parts store and they'll check it for free in the parking lot. And if you don't trust them, go to a mechanic like me. Or if you don't have any trusted mechanics, go to Amazon. You can buy a battery and alternator testing machine for $40 that works perfectly fine. You can test your own, your neighbors. It'll work on any car out there. But do not connect with the car running. It will destroy the computer system of the car, and you'll wish you'd never done it. Go out and buy a $40 tester if you don't trust anyone. Well, you want to talk about tax land, New York State? They're in a real pickle because the rich people are leaving. They don't want to pay the tax anymore. But all the stuff the state runs, this year is spending $25 billion more than it did last year, and they have less money to do it with. Almost 10% of the taxpayers who earned millions left. Now, of course, with coronavirus, people are realizing, hey, we can work remotely. We don't need to be in the big cities. New York City has a big upsurge in crime itself. And realize that if you live in New York City, they have the highest tax burden in the United States. You pay New York City tax and state tax, right? So that's 15.9% of income that goes to New York City and New York State. You're leaving the rest of New York State, I believe it's like 10%. So they're still paying a lot, right? But if you live in New York City, you're paying a lot more. People are just getting disgusted with it. I met a retired police detective in Tennessee, and he just moved to Tennessee from New York. He said, man, New York, he said, it's as bad as it was in the 70s now, crime-wise, and the taxes are even higher than they are then. And he said, I retired. I got the heck out of there. Well, he didn't say heck, but he said a word that means the same thing. They pay more and they get less. For example, New York City spent a record $26,561 per student for education, but their test scores are going lower and lower. New York City has a 32% citywide rise in serious crimes since 2020. So you pay more, get less, and the odds are increasing that someone's going to rob you. Doesn't sound like something that sounds all that appealing, right? The mass exodus has begun. One wonders how you can turn it around. Hey, let's face the facts. New York City was an absolute hellhole in the late 60s and for much of the 70s. Crime rampant, garbage all over the place. Take something to turn around. If those people with the money are leaving, guess what? And I saw that in Chicago too. The rents for the high-rise stuff were dropping like a stone. San Francisco, the same thing. They got empty buildings all over the place. It's kind of interesting to see what happens in the long run. I mean, it's going to be like that Kurt Russell movie where they make the island, all the criminals are living in the high-rises, and they stick them in. Who knows? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.